Okay, I have been a .NET solopreneur for like 3 years now, and I'm also trying to experiment with more short form video content and publish things a little more often. So here's a quick tip if you are a .NET developer and a solopreneur. If you are wanting to add authentication to your .NET app, you have a few different options you can choose from. For example, you could do the ASP.NET Core pre-built library. ASP.NET Core Identity is what it's called. That's essentially a library you can add to your app, and it will actually add the authentication tables to your database. That's one option. Another option is that you could use an external third-party authentication service, and honestly, there are nuances for why you might want to do one or the other. You could also just do something as simple as a username and password, and you could hash and salt that and store it in your database. What it really depends on is who is your target customer and your target audience for your .NET app. And one question I would ask if I were you is what I'm building B2C or B2B? Because if you're building things for businesses or doing B2B type developer work, or if your app is going to be used in a B2B setting, it is totally possible that your users may ask for social logins or even like SSO or something like that. If it's only ever a username or password, it's super easy. But if you think there's a chance, or if you know that you could move into more complicated auth needs, I'm actually kind of not against using an external auth provider at times. It just depends on the trade-offs you're willing to go with and what sorts of nuances you're okay working with and which ones you're not. So if you use an external auth provider, I'm trying out the new Entra External ID. I don't know how great it is or not great it is just yet. I'm still experimenting with setting it up in Didact. I'm going to try it today, later on live stream. And just a word of tip for you, it's really helpful to have testing environments, of course. I think any software dev would tell you that. And one thing that I've learned over the last few years is if you're going to use, say, Entra External ID in Azure, set up a different tenant for each environment that you have. So like for me, one app that I'm building for Didact is called Didact Console. And it's going to be like a web app and little key management app that customers can log into. So I need some kind of auth system to be put on the front of it. And I decided to just try Entra External ID and see if it's less terrible than it was a few years ago when I tried it. So I set up one for dev and staging and production because it's just really nice to have separate test users and separate tenants and databases and all that stuff. So there's a tip for you. If you use an external authentication system, set up a dev, staging, and prod tenant for yourself so that you can make testing a lot easier.